Work. Everyone's favorite hobby. Look, just because Pokemon exists doesn't mean work can't, but it makes you feel that way. Pokemon games encapsulate this utopian lifestyle that feels out of touch from reality. Playing them is one of my favorite ways to escape my grueling work schedule. The dopamine rush I get from winning a battle or finding a rare encounter feels unreal. I started replaying Pokemon Black recently and landed in Castelia City. There's events, food, battles, scenery, and workers. Most people in Castelia City work some sort of job. For instance, the Passerby Analytics HQ. They'll all interrogate you with loads of questions like, what's your favorite greeting? What would you want to become? And my favorite, who is your favorite gym leader? The most depressing bit of this building is this guy who says how lonely he is. Look, I'm sure they don't get much traffic, and it makes me feel like in a world full of Pokemon, you can find normalcy anywhere and everywhere. In the Battle Company, there's a number of folks who work as scientists, clerks, and even a janitor, aka the chairman, who are all ready to fight you. I feel that Game Freak's intention was to show that while there are other inspired trainers who vouch to become a champion, they're all at work for the purpose of battling trainers to collect data, hence the server racks located in the corners of each floor. This is supposed to make the Pokemon world feel relatable. Pokemon doesn't always give us relatable media either. For instance, being a gym leader is completely out of touch from reality. To be a gym leader, you have to be appointed by a member of the Pokemon League. No, you can't be Bronny James and have Papa reel you in. As a kid, I always wondered why they monotyped their teams. You're telling me Missy came across a fire or ground type and passed it up because of her love for water type Pokemon? Seriously? Speaking of serious gym leaders, Koga the Poisonous Ninja Master is the Fuchsia City gym leader in the Kanto region. This guy's insane. He likes the despair and horror that poison type Pokemon can inflict on others. He's also mad talented, creating his own medicine to heal his Pokemon, a great teacher in the art of ninjutsu, and he has a daughter, Janine, who eventually takes over his gym after Koga gets promoted to the Elite Four in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. She's what everyone wanted Bronny to be. Everyone in the city loves Koga because he takes care of his people. To support this, there's a statement that a Safari Zone guy makes. Koga patrols the grounds every so often. Thanks to him, we can play here knowing that we're safe. This contrasts his freakish battling nature, being a softie who deeply cares for his people and Pokemon. He's great at his job and encompasses what characteristics an Elite Four member should have. Being a gym leader comes with the responsibility of preparing to pass the torch to a new generation of leaders. They're made to protect and serve their city. Knowing all that Koga's done, he has to ensure that his daughter is well equipped to run this city just as he did. Although gym leaders live the glam and glory on the outside, they're put under so much pressure to ensure citizens can live life to the fullest. Something prominent in the real world and the Pokemon world is crime, which I really hope you can't relate to. If you do, comment down below what you do for work. Pokemon details a specific hierarchy for each org. The top has its leaders, which trickles down to admins, then the grunts. Of course, the leaders and admins are all in on their end goal, whatever that may be. But I feel as though some grunts join for their own personal gains. Money, status quo, or even by force. If I was desperate enough with a bleak future, I'd probably join too. But you know who really challenges the status quo? Chorus. At your second encounter in Pokemon Black and White, he talks about how he disagrees with Team Plasma's goal, liberating Pokemon from humans. But Colress has his own ambitions, to pursue and research the true strength of Pokemon. Initially, he's portrayed as every other criminal scientist ever, but he shows empathy as the game progresses. For example, after defeating him in battle on the Plasma Frigate, he allows you to access Ghetsis' room, with hopes that you can stop him. Eventually, he and other Team Plasma members put an end to their ambitions, or so we all thought. In Pokemon Sun and Moon, he now believes that Pokemon's true strength comes from its bond with its trainer. Colress never stops doing what he loves, research and development. You can see this as a job, but I think in his case, this is all for the love of the game. He'll follow any organization that will provide him with the tools and Pokemon necessary to reach his full potential. I think he's an outsider who could care less about societal status. I respect him so much for being a brainiac and empath. Good and bad people do bad things. And you know, sometimes it feels like these organizations take better care of their own people than the government. But hey, What do I know? I feel like having a criminal job would be so thrilling. Steal and capture some noob's Pokemon, get rewarded, free food, and even a sick uniform. Except for Team Skull. I cannot take them seriously with how they look, but looks aren't everything. Team Skull is calculated in a unique way, led by none other than Guzma. Now, I always thought this guy was dumb as a bag of rocks, throws tantrums when he can't win, claims to be undefeated, and only battles trainers when he has the unfair advantage. He's got a crazy job that requires tons of manipulation and power. Mix that with a bunch of desperate jobless people, and you get Team Skull. Now, I have to give them their flowers, because at one point in Pokemon Sun and Moon, they created a pseudo-government in Po Town. The entire town was abandoned by its own people, and I mean everything. Inside the walls, Team Skull patrols the area and barricaded the buildings. The only two accessible areas being the Pokemon Center and Shady House. This isn't any Pokemon Center though. You're charged 10 Pokédollars by some grunts who plead with the player that they have bills to be paid, which highlights my point of folks joining criminal orgs in times of desperation and need. I mean, I have to respect the hustle here. At least they're serving their community. Speaking of serving, this is Po Town's sore thumb, Royce, the office worker. Let's check out his ordinary dialogue. Sorry for staring at you like that. In a town full of Team Skull grunts, you stick out a bit. Nah, I know what you want. You heard the rumors too, yeah? You're a cautious one. I like that. I have a need for caution myself. What with my merchandise being what it is. I want to have a battle with you. See if you can be trusted. You understand? Battling us for trust? Selling merchandise, but not telling us exactly what it is? And his merchandise? He'll sell you a nugget, which is actually slang for weed. Look, this would have never happened, not on the Looker's watch. I think he has a cool Lashab and makes calculated movements in every situation. In Pokemon Platinum, his one goal is to stop Team Galactic, and he is dedicated. He's always searching for clues, disguised as a grunt, and seemingly one step ahead of the player. It's implied that Looker isn't from this region in the US version, due to his weird grammatical constructs. I love this guy, not only for his dedication to justice, but for his ability to outmaneuver the villain. After becoming champion, you meet with Looker one last time at Stark Mountain, where he disguises himself as a fucking breakable rock to arrest Sharon, stopping Team Galactic's evil plot. What reaffirms my admiration for this character is that Looker doesn't stop there. He's seen in 4 other regions. In Pokemon Black and White, he's assigned to capture the 7 sages of Team Plasma. In X and Y, he's on a secret mission to arrest one of the 5 evil Team Flare scientists, Zorosic. He meets a young homeless girl named Emma and takes her under his own care. Feeling like a burden, Emma decides to get a job at the Lysandre Cafe, and you'll never guess who hired her. Zorosic makes her put on this suit that makes her do all these crimes, and she doesn't know what she's doing. We save her. Zorosic is arrested. Shortly after, Emma is given a house paid for in full to live on her own. I think it's noteworthy that Looker's strange dialogue is scaled back in this game, which we can assume that he's grown accustomed to the region's dialect. It's revealed that Looker's Pokemon was killed. I'm assuming it's its Krogunk, since the picture on the table states a bluish and purplish color. Then in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Looker suffers from amnesia due to an unknown accident. He's found washed up on the shore of the battle resort, soaking wet. A woman brings Looker back to her cottage, where the player can receive an Audinite for the trouble, constantly wondering who he is, which brings us to Pokemon Sun and Moon, the theorized source of this amnesia. 10 years prior to the events of Pokemon Sun and Moon, a dream team was formed by the International Police, which included Looker, Nanu, and an unnamed Faller, which is a changed person who passed through an ultra wormhole that was exposed to large amounts of energy. This team was tasked with tracking down the Pokemon Guzzlord, resulting in the Faller losing their life. After, they discovered the frontier brain Annabelle, who was washed up on the shore of Pony Island, suffering from amnesia. The cause of this amnesia is theorized to come from ultra wormholes. This event is extremely soul-crushing because Looker isn't the same sharp and collected character we once knew. It feels feels like watching your favorite all-star sports player suffer from a career-ending injury. He's such a dedicated investigator who I think deserves the world for continuing to travel the universe for the greater good. Looker made a strong impact in other regions, whether it was direct or from the shadows of a breakable rock. And I think we can assume that Looker is a tormented detective who once solved mysteries with confidence, now finds himself asking others for help. He is haunted by the memories of his lost partner and Pokemon. One of, if not the most important job in the entire world, is teaching. Every region has a unique set of schools and teachers. Just to name a few, there's a traditional school in Alola, the Mega Zoe 101 Academy in Paldea, or the non-traditional fighting dojo in Saffron City. These schools serve the important purpose of transferring knowledge from one to another. This all wouldn't be possible without the help of the teacher, and that's where this guy comes in. Clavel assumes the onboarding role of what is normally the job of the professors in prior games, giving you a Pokedex, your starter, and the good stuff. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet initially portrays him as his ordinary school director, but he doubles as a private investigator disguised as a 12-year-old too. I always thought he was super annoying to run into for every single Team Star mission, throwing bits of insecurity about his identity in the conversation mix, but at the end of the game, it flipped my entire perspective upside down. It's revealed that bullying disappeared from the school, applauding the kids for their acts while simultaneously tearing them a new one for breaking the rules. Classic Clavel. He then forces them to work as team staff members. This was the exact moment that he became one of my favorite characters in the entire game. He took such an insane situation and leveled with these kids who have been through the ringer with bullying all their lives while attracting free child labor. Is that not insane? The cherry on top was Penny, the mastermind behind this entire operation, who was offered a job after graduation, even though she was consistently hacking into the Pokemon League point system. This is a direct reflection of Clavel's influence and power within the school system, which I think makes him a great teacher. Had it been anyone else, who knows what would have happened to them all. We've covered all kinds of jobs in the world of Pokemon. Haven't you noticed what they all have in common? No, not that they suck, and they're all mundane. They're all worked by humans. Newsflash, Pokemon have jobs too. In Pokemon Sword and Shield, Pokemon are requested by big corporations and universities for work. It's pretty simple. You send your Pokemon out on a job for a certain amount of time, and in return, Pokemon receive experience or EVs. If you cancel, you don't get paid. Your Pokemon are graded based on who and how many get sent, not by time. This doubles as a daycare too, where Pokemon might learn a new move or even level up. So next time you find a Snorlax on the side of the road minding its business, just know somebody else paid them in love and affection for that. Off rip, the first working Pokemon I can think of is Machoke in Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Fresh out of the U-Haul, you know those muscles are put to work. What about those Voltorbs and Electrodes in the Mauville City generator? In the Johto region, Miltank are located inside this farm where you can collect their milk. Are people eating them? I mean, I sure hope so. Can you think about how juicy that meat would be? Yeah, I know, these Pokemon are considered wild and are encounterable, but you know, they're hard at work and without pay. I mean, who's to say Machoke won't tighten up and start asking for a raise? Next thing you know, your furniture's crushed and your mom's in a fucking chokehold. Jokes aside, I think it's enlightening. It shows how humans and Pokemon have developed as a society. They're able to coexist and grow together, using one another as stepping stones for the future. Or in some cases, they're used for regression, evil, and destruction. I doubt all Pokemon have the capacity to understand the morale and intent behind people's actions. They're doing what they think is right. Now, this all begs the question, do Pokemon stunt societal advancement? On the surface, it feels like the Pokemon universe is out of touch. The one thing everyone has in common is that you never hear about their financial struggle or hardships. Why don't they struggle with homelessness, jobs, or even hunger? It's simple. People live in a post-scarcity society. There's no need to get a job. I mean, you can if you really need to or want to. Why would you have to charge for electricity when you can have electric Pokemon provided? Oh, you're hungry? Go toss out the old rod for a Magikarp. But you know, in reality, their world is not so different from ours. I think that Game Freak propels us into the POV of a child when it comes to society. True adult shit. One thing is clear though, there's a notably different attitude towards work in this universe. People seem to largely stress this point that you receive so much positivity for doing work. The idea that we see life within these rose-colored glasses feels disconnected from reality as we know it. I think immersing yourself into the Pokemon world as a main character gives you the power to see the world from your own perspective. It can be black and white, or you can dig deeper and look beyond the surface. I think it'd be super interesting to hear your take on this entire matter, because I like to theorize and think about things outside of the box of Pokemon. You know, maybe they are not so different from us, and instead of tools and AI and computers and technology and the internet, they use Pokemon. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.